We come to our evening hour for the lecture meditation in the Lord Chapel at 100 Mile in the Caribou in British Columbia on this Tuesday evening, May 25th, 1954. And continuing in the sphere of our introduced material of last evening, we need to recognize our personal pattern of relationship with and in principle, the God principle of being. What is being? Any being at any level is made manifest by the formation of a specific body capable of function on that level for the purpose of allowing principle the opportunity of action in that level. That's clear, isn't it? It is absolutely essential that we recognize ourselves in relationship to being. More or less vaguely, we comprehend ourselves as being human beings. But human beings have for so long deemed it to be human to excuse the inadequacies that they have forgotten the reality of being. And they've conceived the form through which principle is supposed to act to be the thing itself. Theoretically, most people would deny that statement and say that they recognize that there is something more than the form. But in practical function, the human tendency is to conceive the human form to be the thing, and function, in consequence, is on a basis of providing the form with that which is deemed to be requisite to the well-being of the form in an external sense. Now, we do not deny the external things like food, shelter, clothing, and other things which are required to make possible the effective function of the form. But if we place these things in the realm of the primary, we attempt to function on a basis which we conceive to be necessary to provide the requisite things which are deemed to be essential to satisfying human desire. This makes us puppets, subject to external circumstance. It takes away our freedom and delivers us into continual slavery. until we recognize that these requisite things are not to be denied, but are to be seen as entirely secondary, we cannot begin to comprehend ourselves as beings whose essential and primary purpose is to reveal principle in the expression of law in establishing and maintaining dominion over circumstance, and thereby enjoying control over things. The human mind, in its self-active pattern, is continually establishing the reverse of this, trying to attain that which it deems to be pleasing by manipulation of things, or function in relationship to things as if they were primary. And this effort is expended on the basis of supposing that it is essential to the attainment of dominion. Millions have done this before us in unnumbered generations through the millennia which have passed, and they have failed. There is no valid reason to suppose that we can succeed in violation of the law following the same pattern which has brought failure to others. We need to recognize once and for all that the only way whereby the essential dominion can be established in the realm of circumstance and things is for us as human beings to recognize our own true purpose, which is to say, the revelation of principle. So our second factor in this formula is purpose. The purpose of principle is to reveal itself in action in any realm or on any level where body is provided for that action. Consequently, from the standpoint of body, substance, whether of this realm or of some other, is to allow principle the opportunity of self-revelation. The self-revelation is not of the body, but of the principle. So we have two approaches here to this second phase of our formula. The purpose of principle is self-revelation through the body or bodies made available to principle under law. The purpose of body or bodies is to permit the self-revelation of principle in the realms or on the levels of being where the bodies are made manifest. To the degree that we comprehend this, it is easy to avoid many pitfalls And we begin to have a basis of understanding being. For being, whether here in heaven, some other world or realm, is the manifestation of principle in action through the forms provided in that realm, whatever it may be. We are concerned about our realm, where we have these physical bodies. And last evening we began to have a deeper realization of the fact that these physical bodies have a direct connection with and in that which is conceived to be invisible. It is invisible as far as our physical perceptions are concerned, particularly vision, hearing, touch. We recognize that we have a capacity of perception through feeling, when it is properly understood, which extends beyond the range of our other capacities of perception. But in any case, by reason of the mind and the feeling nature, we have in and with these bodies a direct connection with that which is invisible to physical vision. We also emphasized the point with respect to logic and reason, but we did not go far enough in our meditation thus far to permit a comprehensive understanding of logic and reason. The difficulty is that human beings attempt to use logic and reason in a realm where logic and reason as such, as known to the human mind, cannot penetrate. We all know something of that which is called a hunch, which relates to feeling perception. This feeling perception is something which begins to comprehend that which is beyond the immediate range of vision, hearing, or touch. If immediately the mind, in the intellectual capacity, begins to try to apply logic and reason, it will violate the principle of feeling perception. If we say we have a hunch, which is a rather crude and incomplete term relating to the feeling realm of perception, but if we have the hunch and immediately the mind argues that that couldn't possibly be the case, and it argues itself out of examining that which is perceived through feeling, the mind will imagine that it is proceeding on the basis of logic and reason, when it is not. For logic and reason depend upon awareness of a true premise. We cannot have effective expression of logic and reason without conscious awareness of a true premise. Therefore, when the mind rejects the hunch, as we might call it, in an incomplete sense, without examination of the factors, merely on the basis of an attempted analysis of factors within the range of physical perception, the mind is attempting to use logic and reason in a range where logic and reason cannot reach. Now, I do not anticipate that all of you will completely comprehend this point in a moment. But if we begin to establish the idea, the rest will come later. The important thing for the moment is to see that the supposed conflict between intellectual function on the basis of logic and reason and the feeling perception that is crudely called a hunch is simply a figment of the imagination, because in actual fact there is no conflict. And those who attempt to utilize logic and reason to reject that which is coming into the range of perception through the feeling nature are violating the basic principles of logic and reason, because the consciousness has rejected something before the consciousness has an awareness of the factors which are involved in relationship to the range of feeling perception. Now, all of this has a direct bearing on this point of being. And to the degree that we begin to see being as the expression of principle through form, by which principle is revealed in relationship to the conditions and circumstances which surround the form, we can realize that being is at any level where forms have been created for the revelation of principle. But this revelation of principle through created form is always on a differentiated basis. The essence of that which is created must always be contained at a particularized point of focalization. But at that level, the differentiated factors contained in the essence cannot be perceived and comprehended. Therefore, we see that creation is a process by which form is given to the differentiated factors contained in the essence at the point of focalization. Now, you look like you were... Well, it was very simply stated. One should be any difficulty in following it. At least it should disabuse you of any concept that I haven't anything more to teach you. Well, we'll take a little parenthetical pause here to illustrate just a little. Remember that all creative function manifests on the basis of creative triangles and creative cycles. For the moment, we will not particularly emphasize creative cycles, but we will examine for a moment the principle of the creative triangle. It is obvious that the apex of the triangle provides the starting point for the manifestation of that which appears within the body of the triangle and at its base. And whatever is contained at the body, in the body and base of the triangle, is brought to focus in concentrated manifestation at the apex. This concentrated manifestation at the apex is the essence of the focalization, which must be differentiated in the expanded expression of its being in order to allow its various aspects to appear in comprehensible form. Now, that's This is an exceedingly simple matter. Did you ever look in a microscope? If you saw something that to your physical vision appeared to be minute, so that you couldn't comprehend all of its parts and aspects, and you looked at it under a powerful microscope, you saw it magnified, so that its various parts and aspects might be seen in their true nature. Here we have the minute pattern of all that is contained in the expanded expression. And if we look at it as the base and body of the triangle magnifying all that is contained at the apex, we'll begin to have the idea. Because all that is in the triangle must be contained at the apex of focalization. But it cannot be readily seen and comprehended with the capacities of vision which are at lower levels than the point of the apex. Therefore, down here in the body and at the base of the triangle, we have the expanded differentiation of these aspects contained in the essence of focalization, given form on what we might call a magnified basis, so that they might be readily comprehended by the patterns of perception natural to these levels of form and being. See? Very simple. All right, well then, this makes it clear that any given point of focalization cannot be immediately comprehended, because it contains the essences of that which is to be given form in the expanding process of differentiation, by which that essence at the point of focalization is magnified in form to a comprehensible pattern of action. Now you are that as a human being in relationship to God's being. Creation in its wholeness is that. Now, we recognize that no particularized point in the triangle, at its base or in its body, is supposed to contain all of the essences of that which is focalized at the apex. For that which is in the body and at the base of the triangle is in each of its parts differentiated in expanded expression, revealing the apex. Now let's apply that in the practical field that is familiar to us. This realm of creation. Mankind, was created to be the apex in form. Not the apex as far as the vibrational realm is concerned, please remember. For man, is still a form through which the principle is to be allowed self-revelation. But mankind, is the apex of creation in relationship to this world. The differentiated aspects of the essences contained in mankind are made manifest in the realms of vegetation, animal life, birds, bees, insects, fish, mineral kingdom, etc. All of these various kingdoms of this world, the kingdom of the animals, the kingdom of the insects, the kingdom of the fowl of the air, the kingdom of vegetation, the kingdom of the soil or mineral pattern, all of these kingdoms of this world properly find their point of focalization in relationship to form in mankind. But man, as such, has forgotten the true purpose of his own function and has turned it around so that he, as man, is trying by ingenuity and force to compel a certain amount of control, compel the acceptance of a certain amount of control in these other kingdoms, forgetting that he himself is the apex in the creative triangle in relationship to the realm of form, and that he, as man, contains within himself the essences which are differentiated in all of these other fields. For that which is present in any of these kingdoms that I have mentioned, in their differentiated patterns of form, are contained in man. You take any bird, any insect, any animal, or in the realm of vegetation, and examine the facts, you'll begin to comprehend that man in his own physical body, regardless of the levels of intelligence and feeling, etc., man in his own physical body contains the essences of form which are differentiated into all of these other parts, so that man is supposed to be the apex of the creative triangle in relationship to this realm of physical things. Now, if we see that, it is very easy to begin to recognize the fact that man, trying to control those factors which he is supposed to focalize, dooms himself to failure unless he recognizes in turn that which focalizes himself. Because he in turn is a differentiated aspect of a higher point of focalization which contains in itself the essences of being so manifest. Consider this in relationship to human beings, and see the world of human beings as the base of a triangle, for instance, which in turn provides the apex for the triangle in relationship to the rest of creation in the realm of form in this world. And we see that mankind as one body is made up of the cells which we call human beings. That humanity is in fact one body, and that we as human beings are simply cells in that body. And we recognize that the body of mankind, or humanity, has never died. Death has not been known on this earth. That sound like a startling statement? It isn't. Because mankind, the body of humanity, while cells have come into it and cells have gone out of it, has continued a body of mankind from the beginning. See this principle in relationship to your own body. For a year and a half ago, you had certain cells in your body, in all the vital tissues of your body, which have now gone from you and are not present in you. And your body is formed of new cells, because every 14 months, all of the cells of the vital tissues of your body are changed in normal health. So, the cells that composed your body a year and a half ago have gone from you, and new cells now form your body. This does not mean that you died. Cells have come into you, cells have gone out of you, but you, the human being, have remained the same human being. The same thing is true of the body of humanity. Cells have come into this body, and cells have gone out of this body, but the body of humanity has never died. It continues the same body of humanity. Now, if we see human beings as this base of the triangle which extends into the invisible realm, we begin to recognize that the differentiated aspects of the human body, which we call human beings, each one having similarities to all others, but each one individual, each one distinct in its own capacities and abilities, we'll see this pattern of differentiation. For the essence of that which is focalized at the apex of the triangle in relationship to the base of the triangle which is formed by humanity is differentiated in the expanded expression, the magnified expression, and seen as a mass of human beings. If we take a piece of flesh, any flesh, here, you look at my hand, for instance, and you think of it as a hand. You do not think of it as a mass of cells. If we were to put it under a magnifying glass strong enough, we would begin to see the cells, the differentiated aspects which form the flesh of the hand. So this principle holds true all the way through. Now, if man remembers that he is designed to make possible the revelation of principle in this realm, he will not try to be something which he is not. And all of the chaos in the world appears in consequence of man's failure to remember this basic point. For man chooses what he conceives to be his personal purpose, self-determined, self-established, selfishly conceived, without regard to the purpose for which he himself was created. And then, on this arbitrarily determined basis, he attempts to achieve that which he thinks would be pleasing to himself, forgetting that he was created in the first place as a means by which principle could be revealed at this level, and that unless he pleases the intelligence which functions in relationship to principle, which perhaps we might call God, he will not be able to please himself, because he would have to establish himself in a position as great as or superior to God before he could disregard God's purpose. And it's obvious that man, though he has been trying it for 20,000 years, has never succeeded in making himself superior to God. Therefore, we cannot be happy or truly successful or find or know true fulfillment in life while we disregard the purpose which God had in creating us. If for a moment we can forget our personal desires with respect to external things and consider the fact that the true purpose of being, as far as we are concerned, is the revelation of principle, we will begin to become oriented in the pattern of invisible being, and then, having re-established our personal pattern of relationship with the invisible realm, the force, the power, the intelligence, everything else necessary to the revelation of principle will begin to manifest through our capacities of being, and the control in relationship to external things will be established on a higher level and a more effective basis than we could possibly achieve by any self-determined method. This should make it clear that it is absolutely necessary that we understand being as such, and ourselves as beings. Last evening I introduced an idea, which we would pick up now, For I pointed out that we do not undertake this program of educational training as a church. The church is provided as a spiritual home for those who choose to share it. As far as we are concerned, there is no compulsion, and we are not interested in proselyting. We're not interested in holding anyone in that church home who wants to depart from it. The door is wide open, either to enter in or to go out. And no one who has any authority will turn a hand over to prevent anyone from coming in or anyone from going out. Let's remember that. It's simply a spiritual home for those who choose to share it. Now, there must be a means by which we carry out this program of education and training. What is that means? If we had a dictionary here, I suppose there is one around somewhere. You don't need to bother about it. You can look it up yourselves later if you wish. And we were to examine the meaning of the word ontology. We would find that it means the science of real being. The science of real being. Now, science involves classified knowledge. But more than that, it involves action, practical action, on the basis of that classified knowledge. Science, the science of real being. Now, what is real being? Not merely the existence of human beings, for real being relates to the manifestation of the form of being correctly oriented to and in that from which such form receives its life force. Broadly speaking, we can say God. But to use the word God here proves, generally speaking, to be entirely inadequate, because the comprehension of the meaning of the word is not clear. The ideas are obscure, and the variations equal the number of people who hear. So, we begin to realize that real being must be seen in relationship to that which is beyond the visible realm, and man cannot begin to know his own real being until he recognizes the reality of the principle which is supposed to be revealed by the form of his own body and his capacities of being, which we call mind or intelligence and heart or feeling nature. The science of real being. It is obvious that the most important thing on the face of the earth to any human being anywhere, regardless of his own concept of his own place in the scheme of things, the thing that is of greatest importance to any human being anywhere is the science of real being. Because if we disregard that science, we are going to try to express the qualities of being without an understanding of the nature of being and we will be acting on a haphazard, trial and error basis, which is bound by the very nature of things to defeat itself. So, regardless of religion, regardless of color, regardless of belief, regardless of position, every human being should be interested in the science of real being. And if he is not, and if we cannot inspire such an interest, that individual is hopeless. He cannot be an integral and meaningful part of the whole, and he cannot hope to ever achieve a state wherein he has true meaning to himself. So, actually, as far as the real scheme of things is concerned, he has to be disregarded except as a potential part of the whole or a potential menace to the whole. Otherwise, he must be disregarded. He may potentially become a part of the whole, or his potential may be as a menace to the whole. And only in that respect can he be considered, because he makes himself to be meaningless in any other capacity. So, our concern is immediately with the science of real being, and later our interest will be in the range of inspiring others to become interested in the science of real being. From the standpoint of our program, in relationship to the work of the Third Sacred School, we have, over a period of time, been developing the base of operation, formation and function for the Universal Institute of Ontology. This approach to the science of real being must obviously, from our standpoint, be universal. That is, it must include all people, all conditions, and cannot acknowledge the man-made barriers by which nations, peoples, colors, races, and religions have segregated themselves one from another. The Universal Institute of Ontology, the science of real being. And this institute provides our channel of approach to the world consciousness. And that approach is activated on the basis of the true meaning of ontology, the science of real being. Obviously, only the truth is of value or meaning in relationship to any true science. And here we begin to see the basic principle being allowed the manifest formation by which the purpose of principle may become active in relationship to human beings, to the end that human beings may themselves comprehend themselves in relationship to the science of real being, and then begin to function on the basis of the revelation of principle through the form, to the end that dominion may be established over that which is in fact a differentiated, expanded expression of the essences contained within man himself. Now, man cannot, in his present limited state of slavery, comprehend or control the essences in his own body. We have innumerable institutions filled with thousands of people sick in body and mind and heart. We have evidences of our state of slavery in all levels and fields, in the chaotic pattern of life, wherever we may go upon the face of the earth. In some places, conditions may be said to be better than in other places, but the evidence of this state of slavery is everywhere to be seen. Now, if man cannot control these factors in the range of his own body, where the essences of created form are contained, he certainly cannot hope to control the things, forms, and factors which appear in circumstance external to himself. He can try by willpower, he can try by every means at his command to achieve such an end, and he will fail. Only when we recognize the science of real being and allow the control factors to be established in ourselves in relationship to the principle which we ourselves are supposed to permit manifestation, can we hope to establish a condition within ourselves as human beings by reason of which the control may extend by reason of the essences contained within us to those factors in the creation around us, which are the differentiated, expanded expression of ourselves. Now, until we begin to have an understanding of our true relationship to nature, as it is called, and the things around us on this basis, we cannot understand how to enjoy dominion over them. Some people become subject to nature. They are nature worshippers, and they're called good people generally. And it is fine to enjoy nature. There are those who by various drive patterns, under the whip of greed, envy, jealousy, or something else, establish a self-determined pattern on the basis of human desire, and by the expenditure of life force and energy, time, and all the rest, hope to attain a given end, only to find that it turns into emptiness. For a while it seems to be satisfactory, but it always turns into emptiness sooner or later. It's obvious as to why. Because that man or that woman has failed to recognize his or her own true purpose in form, body with capacities of being, by reason of which principle, under law, is supposed to manifest in this realm in relationship to man himself and to the expanded expression of differentiated aspects of himself, which we call nature. Now, thus simply stated, it should be easy to comprehend. And if we see the truth will make us free. Because it is not a matter of opinion or belief, mine or anyone else's. It is a matter of the way things are, whether human beings like it or not. And those who do not like it will have to lump it. It's been so down through the centuries with all generations. And it is so for this generation and for all generations to come. We are not going to change this basic pattern, which is what? It brings us to our next point. We have purpose, First principle, purpose, design. Here we begin to recognize the reason for the design as it is. We do not have to accept it on a basis of blind faith, blind belief. It is not something arbitrary established by God. It is something which simply can't be any other way. God is not arbitrary. He simply says, here is the principle, here is the purpose, and here is the design. If you will conform to the design, so that you may be true to the purpose, the principle will be revealed in and through you, to the end that you yourselves may be brought under control, and through you that control may manifest in the differentiated aspects of the expanded expression of the essences of your own being, which you call nature. The animal kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, and all the rest. That's the way it is, like it or not. Classified knowledge applied in the practical living of life. And the truth within the individual's own integrity, compels him, if he is to be true to himself, to acknowledge the truth once it is revealed to his consciousness. And if he rejects that truth, once it is so revealed, it is on the basis of rejecting his own integrity, which must of necessity produce a rottenness within himself, by which he establishes his own decay and disintegration. It may be over a long or short period of time, matters little. The only way is the way of the truth in relationship to the living of life. And we cannot deny the principle of our own being. We cannot deny the purpose which that principle has in relationship to ourselves. We cannot deny the design in its overall pattern of manifest form, and have control in ourselves or through ourselves. And the world is full of evidence that control is lacking. Now, I have known many people to say that it's impossible to do anything about it. Concepts of all sorts. If man is this way, he's always going to be this way. As is put in Peter, in the last days there shall be scoffers walking after their own lusts or desires, saying, where is the promise of fulfillment? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of history. Sure, plenty of people to believe that doctrine. But every advance that has been made in our so-called civilization has been made first by a few. And if that advance was basically sound, scientifically established, and meaningful, it has been, perhaps gradually, but definitely accepted by many.